Hey, what's up, everybody? Pat here, grateful recovering alcoholic and addict, just like every day, my friends. Guys, please don't forget to subscribe, leave the video a like, drop me a comment, and by all means, share it with somebody who might get something out of it. Other than that, we're going to get right into it, guys. This one is just for today and a meditation for today, and this is for all of you in early recovery or struggling with addiction and trying to get started in recovery. When we finally say enough, something inside of us cries out, I've had enough. And then we're ready to take that first and often most difficult step towards dealing with our disease. Have we really had enough? This is the crucial question we must ask ourselves as we prepare to work the first step in recovery. It doesn't matter whether or not we still have our families intact, our career still there, and all the outward appearances of wholeness, or if we've lost everything. The only thing that matters is we have reached an emotional and spiritual bottom that precludes our return to active addiction. If we have, we will truly be ready to go to any lengths to quit using. When we inventory our unmanageableness, we ask ourselves one simple question: can I control my use of drugs or alcohol in any form? Whether incidents have occurred as a result of my using that I didn't want to happen, has my life become unmanageable? Do I believe in my heart I'm an addict? That's more than one question. So, but yeah, you guys, those are the things we have to ask ourselves, guys. If we answer yes to these questions, then we are ready to take the next step towards a life free from addiction. If we have truly had enough, we will be willing to go to any lengths to find recovery. And the affirmation is just for today. I admit I've had enough. I'm ready to take the next step towards freedom. And God, did that bring me back, guys, right? And that's exactly it, guys. I mean, my life had been unmanageable for a very, very, very long time. But, through sheer will and just, thick-headedness, and I just kept plugging along, constantly telling myself that I was going to do the same thing and somehow get a different result and not just keep stacking losses. And all I did was continue to stack losses, and I was withering away physically, emotionally, spiritually. I was literally a shell of who I am today. And at any point, all I had to do was say I've had enough and start making, better choices, right? Start working towards recovery, go to rehab. I've been through it before. I knew, and every time I've gone through it, I even though I didn't last because I didn't do enough work, I still enjoyed the freedom of getting out from under the drugs. I would be so incredibly happy, but that was the extent of what I did. I would do whatever they wanted me to do while I was in a program. But the second I was left to my own devices, I hadn't made any changes. I hadn't I hadn't started doing the spiritual work, the inner work, and that's the difference today, guys. My life I've progressed so much further than I ever have in recovery in these 7 months that I've been out on my own. And this is the beauty of it, guys. I love the fact that I slipped the night that I get home because I had to reset my sobriety date. And every minute of sober time I have today is under my own control. And that's amazing to me, right? And this is by far the longest I've had. I think I had like 9 or 10 months at one point, but 6 months of it was in jail. And 6 months was in a sober house, and somehow I still didn't make a year, right? Like, come on. I didn't, even in a program, I had already started relapsing before I graduated the program because I had some freedom. That's not the case this time, guys, because I finally, truly had enough. I mean, I had enough long before I got clean. I just was, I was addicted, guys, and it is a physical addiction. Heroin, fentanyl, the crack cocaine had me pretty tight, but that's not a physical addiction, though it's still a pretty tough addiction. But it was the heroin, fentanyl that I couldn't make any good decisions because it got to the point where I needed more and more, particularly with the fentanyl these days, guys. It's just nonsense. It's terrible. I'm not going to glorify it in any way, shape, or form to say, oh, back in the good old days of the heroin, at least you could. No, it was fucking killing me. And if it wasn't for the fact that my higher power had a plan for me all along, I truly believe I wouldn't have made it through what I've made it through. And that was one of the most eye-opening things to me, is when I got into early recovery, got into rehab this time around, I actually started to do the inner work and started looking at the totality of everything that I'd been through and realized that although at the time I was suffering, from a lot, PTSD and codependency and, childhood traumas and the whole nine yards, because I'd never worked on them, right? But what I realized was through all, and I guess I'm a very high energy person. I do everything to a ridiculous extent, including my recovery, and thank God I've done that this time. But I put myself through hell that very, very few people survive. I brought everything. I brought my rock bottoms, just started getting deeper and deeper and deeper and more costly. Between the car accidents, the overdoses, the bad positions I put myself in, the extremes that I would go to using, it's amazing that I survived. Never mind the fact that I'm completely healthy. The only medication I'm on is Sublocade, which is by choice, and I'm not, required to take it. My blood pressure is fantastic. My heart rate, my, everything, my cholesterol. Like I'm incredibly healthy today, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And it just makes me understand that I was, it was all by design, right? God was keeping me safe because He knew He had a purpose for me, and He knew eventually that I would say enough is enough. Let me get back to who I really am, and that's all I've done, guys. And that's the most beautiful thing. That is like literally the thing that makes me happiest in this recovery. I'm not aspiring to be somebody other than myself. I'm just aspiring to be the best version of me possible. That's the difference today, guys. That's a terminology I'd never even heard of before this round of recovery. I always just thought I was fine the way I was, and none of those things mattered. I just had to put down the drugs. But because I wasn't working on all the traumas and all the things that happened to me before recovery, before addiction, I could never maintain any sort of sobriety, any sort of recovery. I could abstain for a little while, but literally all it took was just me being bored one day, or somebody coming up and offering me something, and then boom, I was done. If you guys have been watching my videos, you remember the video when I spent my last day at work. So I'm still talking the first month that I was out of rehab. There was a dealer that I owed a few dollars to that was just hounding me for it, and I knew if I didn't pay him off, he was just going to keep coming. And to me, not paying him off was almost like a reservation. Am I waiting to someday slip? And my biggest fear was I'd never made it through a situation where somebody offered me drugs and I wasn't taking a piss test, where I wouldn't just use them. So I was literally terrified that day, guys, when I went to meet this guy and pay him off. I was praying the whole way over, God give me the strength, God give me the strength. And because I was so intentional about it, this crack dealer got in my truck, looked right at me and said, "Holy shit, you look amazing, man. I know you're not trying to use, thank you, here's, things, give me my," and I drove away feeling like $1 million. He didn't even offer me anything, right? And I was prepared to say no. And I've been offered a lot since, and even the doctors, guys, when I had my surgery 2 months ago, the doctors were offering me liquid morphine and Suboxone and methadone and anything I was willing to take that I wouldn't feel was a relapse. But here's the thing. I went in there knowing I'm on Sublocade, knowing full, in my mind, not expecting them to not offer me anything. So I was fully prepared to deal with the pain, and I wasn't in that much. I was in a lot of pain, don't get me wrong, but it was not anything beyond what I could handle. So in my mind, to take drugs that I did not need would be a relapse. Now, granted, if I was in some horrendous car accident and I literally needed some sort of medications, then that would be a different story. But I was conscious, and I was fully capable of handling the pain. And at that point, guys, my biggest fear was that monster switch in my brain being flipped back on. So I would not allow them, even though they were telling me I had to take the drugs, I would not allow them to give them to me. That was one of the biggest gifts I've been given, along with so many others, because it gave me a sense of confidence that I'm truly done. That this time around, when I said enough is enough, that enough was enough. And then on top of that, because I'm being so intentional, I'm working so hard, and I'm doing the inner work, and I'm going deeper and deeper, working with my therapist, working with my doctors, volunteering my time at Project Bread, doing my YouTube, doing my TikTok, speaking at my meetings, going on commitments whenever I'm invited. Because I continue to delve further and further and further in my recovery, and not even just my recovery, but every aspect of my life. Guys, I use skincare products, say. I cook homemade meals. I don't eat anything that's pre-processed. I cook everything from scratch. I buy fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. I don't drink, 7 gallons of soda every day. I still have a soda every day. But guys, I used to have 6 or 8 16-ounce bottles and then come home and drink a 2-liter bottle plus every day. I don't do that. I've replaced that with Propel Fitness Water and sugar-free Powerade. Like every aspect of my life, I continue. I take daily vitamins. I drink high polyphenol, phenol olive oils. Like I take a plant-based shake every morning. I'm doing all these things. So and I didn't do it all at once because it would have been so overwhelming to try to change all that. I couldn't have kept track of it. So what I've done is I've taken the most important thing to me, whatever God points out to me first, and I work on that. And when I get that handled to a point that I'm comfortable and doing the right thing is my baseline, then I look at the next aspect and say, okay, what's the next biggest change? What's the next biggest change? What's the next? And just one by one. And what I've done is over the course of 7 months, I've completely and utterly changed every aspect of my life. And for so much better, guys. Today, I'm a Harvard student. I'm a business owner. My bank account is hitting levels I've never, ever, 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 ever. I think I got more money in the bank right now than if you took all the money I had at any given point and added it all together for the last 10 years. Like, that's amazing to me. And again, it's not I'm not balling. I'm not out buying, because I've got things I need to do to get caught up to where I feel I should be, or to be not where I should be. I'm right where I should be, but to get to where I need to be. For long-term security, so I'm investing in those things and I'm making good decisions. And it's just one more area I'm stepping up because that's something I never did. I never saved a dime because everything it was always had to do this, had to do that. Guys, I could go buy myself a brand new Harley today. I've got a Harley Davidson outside. I haven't ridden in 2 years because I haven't had the time to fix it yet, and it's just not a priority because building my life that is a recreation, right? And I'll enjoy the day that I do. But I don't want to go buy a new one. I'd rather take my time and I'll rebuild mine when I have a minute to, when the time is right, when I feel the time is right. Because right now, I've got other things that are my priority, and that's what I do. And leisure time for myself, resting time for myself is a huge priority. But my Harley Davidson, even though it's my pride and joy, that's not my top priority right now. And when it is, I will very easily go through and make that bike beautiful, right? But I could very easily just get it and go buy myself a new one. I have literally the money to pay cash for it right now, but I've got other things I need to do, and that's why my life continues to get better and better. Guys, today alone, and this is the thing, guys. It could because I'm constantly going to the gym. I'm stepping up. I'm challenging myself to get more physically fit. I'm doing more things to keep myself more healthy, to look younger, to feel to look better. I get compliments constantly. I walked into the diner this morning, and the cook came up from behind the grill. He goes, "Man, I got to ask you, what are you doing?" I go, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "I've been watching you come in here day in and day out for over 6 months now, and you just get bigger and bigger and bigger." He's like, "You're pretty muscular. Like, what? At this point, I got to ask, you got to be taking something." And I said, "No." I said, "I understand." I said, "No, but you got to understand. When I first started coming in here, it was the tail end of my addiction." And go, so what I've done is I've gotten clean, I'm getting healthy, and I'm putting on weight, and I'm just about 200 pounds right now. I think my healthy weight, non-active addiction, was about 170. So I'm about 30 pounds heavier through going to the gym and being muscular from working out. So yeah, I'm a heavy version of myself, not the heaviest I've ever been, but naturally, without taking steroids or supplements or this or that or the other thing, creatine and loading and this and that. No, I'm not taking anything beyond daily vitamins and olive oil and plant-based shakes and I'm by far the biggest, strongest, healthiest I've ever been. At 52 years old, I just put 300 pounds on the bench press. We had a great conversation, but it was just his way of complimenting me and saying, "Hey, I see the work you're doing, man. Good for you." And then a couple hours later, I was working with one of the tenants whose AC is out, and we've been having a lot of problem getting the parts. So I spoke with the owner of the building, and we're going to go replace the whole system tomorrow. And I let her know, and then she took it upon herself to call the owner to not only thank him, but then to also let him know. And he forwarded me the text, and the exact words were, "Doug, Pat has been absolutely amazing, consistent, and a joy to work with. You are very, very lucky to have him." And these are the things. This is like people forward me this feedback, or I get it directly, like multiple times a week. My buddy Johnny told me the other day, "Geez, look at you packing on the muscle." Guys, you can't help but feel good. Everything I do, I'm doing for myself and my higher power. But I'm not going to sit there and tell you I'm not vain in the way that when people compliment me, it doesn't make me feel good. Because I wasn't getting complimented before. I was getting pulled aside and asked if I was okay. because I looked like I was dying. I've had people ask me if I had cancer, if I had AIDS, like in my active addiction, because I would go so hard and not eat for so long and not sleep for so long. I looked like I was a walking zombie. And I look back, and that's why when somebody would ask me for a picture, I couldn't take a selfie and send them, because I'd take a picture, I'd look at my phone, and I go, oh my God, that's me? Today I don't do that. I get on video every day and stare myself in the face, and I'm happy with who I see. That is what happens when you finally say enough is enough, and you're willing to go to any lengths. Guys, the most important cliche I ever heard that stuck with me, and that's the thing, I've heard them all, but today they actually become the way I live my life. And the most important one was to chase recovery as hard as you chase addiction, your drugs and addiction. I made myself a promise in rehab that I would do that, and I've kept that promise. And I had no idea what that was going to look like. I was terrified of what it may look like. Guys, I had no idea life could be this good. Like, there's nothing crazy, insane about my life, but it's mine, and I'm making, and like I said in the other end of the video, I'm starting to reach my potential, and that is the most amazing feeling in the world. Watching my bank account grow, watching opportunities unfold in front of me, getting offers for people to want to work with me and to want me to guide somebody else is such an honor to be a person. That's one thing I've always wanted, guys. It's one of the things I pray for daily, is I ask God to let me live a life that leads by example, so that people might want what I have and might want to be willing to do what I do. I don't have all the answers, but I will certainly share whatever knowledge I have with anybody. Guys, when you finally had enough, there's a life that is so much better, and depending on how hard you're willing to work, how much effort you're willing to put into changing your life can be second to none. I see people that are struggling, and then I watch them out of a meeting, and they're immediately, showing behaviors that are not, don't go hand in hand with a lasting and longing recovery, and I'll push them to the other side and gently and kindly, offer them advice. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to take it. It's up to me to have taken my recovery to where I've taken it this time around, and I'm incredibly grateful that I have. I love myself today. That's something I love to say, because it's something I hadn't been able to say in so long. I truly didn't know who I was, and I hated the person that I was being, because I wasn't being me. I was being anything but me. And today, the most beautiful statement I can make is the fact that my life is getting better and better, because I found who I truly am, and I'm just letting that person out. Guys, always remember, God loves you. I love you. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you in the next one.